In the headlines, jealousy over a woman leads to a brutal murder in East Berbice quarantine. A truck driver is charged with the brutal murder of his ex-girlfriend. Authorities have so far been unable to locate millions of dollars invested in a major Ponzi scheme as the lawyer for those accused of swindling thousands of Guyanese applied to the High Court to review the charges. The United States says Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will visit Suriname and Brazil during his historic trip to Guyana. And in sport, home for rugby, a key item on Rugby Union's agenda ahead of meeting with Sport Minister. To news, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We started by telling you that a 25-year-old fisherman of quarantine Berbice was on Monday stabbed to death at a superbet outlet. The incident reportedly stemmed from the suspect's love interest braiding the fisherman's hair. Newsroom spoke with the man's grieving wife on Tuesday, who explained what transpired. Bibi Katoon reports.
A 22-year-old mother of two is plunged into a state of despair after her husband was on Monday evening stabbed to death at a superbet outlet. Dead is 25-year-old John Alexander Yap of Kilcoy Settlement, East Berbice quarantine. The suspect was identified as a man called Pikin, also of Kilcoy, who is on the run. Manisha Chandralal called Anjali in an interview with the newsroom explained that the incident occurred at about 7:30 p.m. on Monday.
And my husband is John Alexander Yap, and we went by the superbet back then, and around like what 7 to 8 o'clock, somebody just called me telling me how that the buying Pikin stab up my husband. And when we went to come, we just done get him wrapped the towel, me can come, and his body was stay by Yabi too, and he would run first and he go and rush to go to carry the hospital. And the buy now was stab up he stabbed in front the most down so, and he asked me to say by the way do the fact he say how that he get more for do say that done yet, and the buy get a knife in his hand, a black knife, and he's still full of sheer blood. I'm just left he walk and gone, and he walk and gone back and everything rush to go and carry him down the hospital. And this morning like 6:30 when we go now, the doctor said he can't do operation but he feel.
Yap was taken to the Port Morant Hospital where he was admitted and subsequently transferred to the New Amsterdam Public Hospital where he succumbed to his injuries while undergoing treatment. According to Chandralal, the man and her husband shared a previous grievance which led to her husband suffering a stab to his neck last Tuesday. The issue reportedly started after her husband went to the suspect's love interest to braid his hair.
He been like when Guyanese said just because me mommy died and he go went by the Guyana party here for come a funeral. He said he get a problem with that just because he like them to not take Martin just friend. So he said how the Guyana party here, so that is his problem about. Nothing more.
Police in a statement said several checks were made for the suspect but he is yet to be found. Chandralal recently lost her mother and now her husband and is plunged further into grief as she is uncertain how to move forward since they both were her biggest support. She's left to fend for herself and two children ages 5 and 2 years old. Bibi Katoon reporting for the newsroom.
We tell you now that a 42-year-old truck driver of Golden Fleece, Essequibo Coast, was on Tuesday charged with the offense of murder committed against his ex-girlfriend, 24-year-old Lonisa Peters. Police headquarters in a statement noted that Nandran Prasad, known as Toppy or Floppy, appeared at the Anne Regina Magistrates Court and was not required to plead to the indictable charge. He was remanded to prison until September 25 when the case will call at the Sadi Magistrates Court. Prasad was arrested on September 10, one day after he stabbed Peters to death in a fit of rage at Supanam Public Road, Essequibo Coast. The young woman was stabbed to her head and body and was pronounced dead on arrival at the Sadi Public Hospital. Police recovered a knife and a rolling pin with bloodstains at the scene. Investigations revealed that Peters and the suspect had a common law relationship and lived together until they separated. Peters moved out of the Golden Fleece home and moved to her aunt's house at Supanam. It is alleged that the suspect visited the aunt's house on the night in question and was invited inside. He and Peters were sitting in a chair when the phone rang and she answered. According to the police, the suspect heard a male's voice on the other end of the call and became annoyed. He snatched Peters by her hair and dragged her into the kitchen where he grabbed a knife, took her to the bathroom and dealt her several stab wounds. Peters' aunt heard the commotion, raised an alarm, after which the suspect ran out of the house and escaped. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal on Monday revealed that the authorities have been unable to locate millions of dollars invested in a Ponzi scheme allegedly operated by Cuban national Yuri Garcia Dominguez and his Guyanese wife Atika Ishmael. The couple have so far been slapped with 81 charges relating to fraud and remain on remand. Isnal Patwa reports.
A year after they began operating an alleged investment agency in Guyana, Cuban national Yuri Garcia Dominguez and his wife Atika Ishmael are currently before the court on 81 charges for allegedly swindling millions of dollars from Guyanese in a major Ponzi scheme. Dominguez and Ishmael of Track A Collagen East Coast Demerara are associated with Accelerated Capital Firm Inc. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal, in an update to the public on Monday, noted that the investigation is expanding and moving in the direction of anti-money laundering. As such, a multi-sector task force comprising the Attorney General, the police, and the Ghana Securities Council has been established to recover the monies. The Attorney General also disclosed that investigations to date have not revealed any clues about where the money might be hidden.
The gentleman Yuri Dominguez requested that a bank account be reopened so that monies can be returned to Guyana and deposited in that account. That facility was granted. An account was opened at a commercial bank, and to date, not a cent has been returned to that account. He then said he wanted access to a computer so that he can do certain transactions on the computer that ought to bring back the money. He was provided with that computer, yet no money came back.
It was noted that several investigative agencies also conducted searches to recover any assets owned by the accused to be held by the state, but this proved futile. According to the Attorney General, it is clear that these monies were received as part of a fraudulent criminal enterprise and have been converted to the recipient's own use.
Clearly, once bail is granted, he will skip the jurisdiction. Searches have been done by the various investigative agencies in relation to any assets which he may own in Guyana. He doesn't own a single piece of property, not a motor vehicle, not a movable property, and certainly not any immovable property. And no one can provide any sensible information as to the whereabouts of all this money that he amassed from the people of Guyana and people elsewhere.
On August 20th, Dominguez and his wife were arrested for operating an alleged Ponzi or pyramid scheme. To date, 17,000 citizens have come forward to say that they enrolled and invested some $20 million in the alleged Ponzi scheme, which claims it uses a foreign exchange platform to trade. Meanwhile, on August 27th, over 100 persons protested outside the Vigilance Magistrates Court for the authorities to release Dominguez and his wife and grant them a license to operate in Guyana. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
Meanwhile, the lawyers representing the two fraud accused have now filed an action in the High Court to review dozens of fraud charges brought against them in recent weeks. Their attorneys, Dexter Todd and Adrian Smith, at a press conference Tuesday, claimed that the couple is innocent of the charges.
Adrian Smith, one of the attorneys who is representing the couple, told the media at a press conference held at the Regency Suites in Georgetown on Tuesday that an action has been filed in the High Court to review the 81 fraud charges against Ponzi scheme accusers Yuri Garcia Dominguez and his wife Atika Ishmael. The parties to be served are Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal, Police Commissioner Acting Nigel Hoppy, and the Director of Public Prosecutions Shalimar Ali Haq.
We have filed judicial review proceedings to review the charges that have been filed against Mr. Yuri and his wife, which come out of as a result of the contracts that were signed. The parties that will be served, I think, the Attorney General, the Commissioner of Police, and the Director of Public Prosecutions. The High Court. So we have not gotten a date for that as yet. So there's no date that's been set for the hearing of that application.
Attorney at Law Dexter Todd also debunked several claims made by the Attorney General regarding the case. The lawyer said the government is attempting to create a narrative that Dominguez is not cooperating with the investigations. Todd stated that no bank account has been set up for Dominguez to return monies to investors. The lawyer claimed that no computer was made available to his clients at the Lusignan prison to return monies to investors.
the third thing that I want to say in relation to that our client has approached the High Court on several occasions for bail and bail was not granted. You see, listen, this is all an attempt to bring or to create a particular narrative to show that our client is not cooperating and he wants to of course, do certain things that are not in keeping with the laws.
Another attorney representing the couple, Paula Jones Nicholson, further said that these matters are private and should be dealt with privately. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isinella Patwell.
Still ahead on the newsroom, the United States says Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will visit Suriname and Brazil during his historic trip to Guyana. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the newsroom. The U.S. State Department has released a statement offering details on Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's visit to the South American region later this week, and for which the government of Guyana is yet to formally announce. According to the State Department, Pompeo will be visiting two of Guyana's neighbors, Suriname before arriving here on Thursday, and then on to Brazil when he leaves Guyana. Kurt Campbell reports.
Secretary of State Michael Pompeo's visit to the South American region will not only bring him to Guyana, but he will also be visiting Suriname, Brazil, and Colombia before going to Texas. Guyanese authorities have released no information on the high-level visit, which spans the period September 17 to the 20th, 2020, leaving commentators to speculate on the purpose of the visit, which comes just after the general and regional elections here and the installation of a new government. But according to the U.S. State Department, this trip will highlight the United States' commitment to defend democracy, combat COVID-19 while revitalizing economies in the pandemic's wake, and strengthen security against regional threats. When Pompeo arrives in Guyana, he is expected to congratulate newly elected President Irfan Ali and his cabinet and meet with CARICOM Secretary General Erwin LaRocque. The U.S. Department of State anticipates that Pompeo will reinforce the promise of value-based U.S. partnership, highlighting opportunities for more reasonable and transparent private sector investment to increase prosperity for the people of Guyana, particularly in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Paramaribo, Secretary Pompeo is expected to celebrate the triumph of democracy by meeting with recently elected Surinamese President Chan Santoki and his cabinet to discuss increased bilateral cooperation and opportunities for partnership in energy and security. While in Boavista, Brazil, he will underscore the importance of U.S. and Brazilian support for the Venezuelan people in their time of need by visiting with Venezuelan migrants fleeing the man-made disaster in Venezuela. Secretary Pompeo will then travel to Bogota to meet with Colombian President Ivan Duque to discuss the strong partnership the countries share, including in managing the COVID-19 response, promoting mutual prosperity, and tackling the threats to regional security from narco-traffickers, terror groups, and Maduro's illegitimate regime. Finally, Secretary Pompeo will return to the United States to discuss Department of State priorities at Prestonwood Baptist Church in Plano, Texas. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
Now, one of the issues affecting the granting of approval for the Payara Field Development Plan is the overlapping of its well on the Lisa Field, according to the Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat. As such, the operator, ExxonMobil, may have to remark the boundaries for the Payara Field or settle for a Lisa Phase 3 project approval. Minister Bharat hopes this issue will be sorted by the end of this week.
The big issue as it is now, besides from the environmental issues, is the overlapping issue. Because Lisa well is overlapping with the Payara well. Now Lisa well already is under a production license agreement. And if you're going to grant a Payara license, which includes part of the Lisa agreement, of course, you know, there will be a lot of implications, legal implications there. So that is something we're trying to work out as best as possible this week, whether we mark the boundaries, whether we issue a Lisa 3 license agreement. They will decide at the technical level and advise the government on how we move forward on that issue.
ExxonMobil has been pushing for the approval of the project with its recently appointed country manager, Alistair Rutledge, even saying that the company can take its money elsewhere if the plan is not approved. Upon election to office, the People's Progressive Party government has engaged a Canadian team of experts to re-examine the work done of the field development plan under the former administration. There are several environmental issues also barring the approval of the project, and the Canadian experts are also looking at the project's environmental impact assessment. The Ministry of Education is partnering with the Organization of American States, that's the OAS, and Pro Futuro to certify and train teachers across Guyana in online teaching. The program, Retooling Teachers, was launched on Tuesday and is accessible to both private and public schools teachers. Isnel Patwa reports.
The COVID-19 pandemic has shifted the delivery of education to an online platform, but teachers in Guyana have been complaining of limited resources and challenges with adapting to the new normal. As a result, the Ministry of Education has launched a nationwide training program in partnership with the Organization of American States and Pro Futuro, a digital education program. At the end of the program, teachers will be certified and be better equipped to deliver education using online tools. National Project Coordinator for Pro Futuro, Selwyn Griffith, explained that the teachers will be required to complete 4 levels of the program: basic, medium, advanced, and professional, before being certified.
Additionally, we will continue with other forms of training after we would have completed the 4th phase. So it's a continuous professional development, because every day technology changes, and every day there are different ways we're able to engage our learners. So teachers need to evolve as time change, and we will be supporting them that way.
Minister of Education Priya Manik-Chan said as it relates to teachers in the hinterland areas, printed modules will be made available and arrangements will further be made for the teachers to write exams and be certified. There are over 10,000 teachers in the public schools and about 1,000 in the private system.
Effort here is to train every single teacher in the system at the same time. So I mean, it's a large undertaking, but we believe we can do it. It's going to be the first time that it's ever been done here, where all our teachers are trained simultaneously about the same issue. It's amazing how adapted children have become to gadgets and new means of learning, and somehow or the other we might not have moved as quickly in the classroom. We might not have evolved as quickly. So I don't know that we are presently utilizing all that is available to us. That will change.
Will Campbell, local representative for the OAS, stated that the Pro Futuro program was initially established to provide assistance to selected disadvantaged CARICOM countries. In January this year, the program was rolled out in 26 schools in regions 1, 6, and 10, and just about 500 teachers were trained. Now with the pandemic, the program is catering to all teachers to be specialized in online teaching. Trainee teachers at the Cyril Potter College of Education and lecturers at the University of Guyana, as well as private and public schools teachers, are eligible to register for the program at www.education.gov.gy, Retooling Teachers. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
In her maiden speech in the National Assembly during the debates of the Budget 2020, APNU AFC parliamentarian Eureka Finance on Tuesday criticized the government for not putting systems in place to benefit the working class and to ensure equality. She lashed out at the PPP administration for providing incentives to the business sector, which she said will not trickle down to the poor.
Mr. Speaker, the honorable members on the opposite side of this House is selling a dream to the Guyanese people, a dream that seeks to convince us that giving tax breaks to corporations will result in prosperity for the working class family. But this dream will not be sold, as such a concept is riddled in fraud. This is not the best you could have done when it does nothing good for the ordinary people of Guyana, but rather add to their already overloaded daily burdens. To me, tell me, where is the cards drip for the people of Guyana? This budget is not put together for the ordinary people. It was not done with their best interests at heart.
When the newsroom returns, a Chinese company says it will pursue underground mining in Region 7 and regional members of Parliament clash in the National Assembly. This is the newsroom. The Chief Executive Officer of Chinese mining company, Zijin Mining Company Limited, which has successfully acquired the operations of Guyana Goldfields Inc. in Region 7, is expected to visit Guyana next month. The Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat, on Monday told the media that the Chinese company will be continuing the underground mining project announced by Goldfields. However, to do so, he said the company will have to apply for its own environmental permits in keeping with its capacity to undertake the venture.
The company, Jingjing, the CEO, would have signaled his intention to come to Guyana as soon as the airport reopens. So I'm hoping that early next month he will be here in Guyana for us to have a discussion, because their intention is to expand into underground mining, which would be a force for Guyana. And you realize that that would have a lot of implications on the environment. We'll have to ensure there's proper safety regulations. So they will have to go through the entire process before any permission is granted. But it's something that we will engage them in talks to see how we can move forward with it.
We tell you now that the opposition member of Parliament, Vince Roy Jordan, on Tuesday accused the People's Progressive Party government of failing to address concerns within communities that support the APNU AFC, but this was rebutted by Government Member of Parliament Faisal Jafar Ali, who noted that the PPP has several plans in place to develop housing, education and other sectors.
The purpose of a budget is to improve the quality of life of the people, not just a few in selected communities. It is the right of every Guyanese to know how monies are allocated and to be beneficiaries from every area of service. Sir, this dear land of ours cannot descend to such a low in such a short space of time. Where only the rich continue to get richer, the poor poorer, and many just sprung upon.
Mr. Speaker, in this brief budget, Mr. Speaker, we have demonstrated that we will be a government for all the people of Guyana, and Region 5 is no exception. Despite this challenging time, Mr. Speaker, our plan for prosperity in this emergency budget 2020 will outline the transformative agenda to ensure a better life for all Guyanese.
The Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat, has told regional oil executives that Guyana intends to manage its oil wealth with strict adherence to transparency, accountability, and securing benefits for all Guyanese. Minister Bharat was at the time delivering a keynote address at the opening of the Caribbean Virtual Oil and Gas Summit on Tuesday. Kurt Campbell has the details.
Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat told summit delegates at the opening of CARVIC, which included a number of regional oil companies and government officials, that in order to ensure that Guyana's oil resource is managed responsibly, the government will immediately engage the oil and gas companies in better contract administration and renegotiation. Bharat said too that the government intends to establish a petroleum commission to provide the much-needed technical oversight to enhance the regulation of the petroleum sector. In addition, the government will also establish an arm's-length natural resource fund insulated from political interference.
This government will approach the oil and gas sector in a national, non-partisan manner. We are fully aware that this sector will bring not only significant financial resources and enormous transformational opportunities, but also many challenges. There are many examples around the world where developing countries have obtained windfalls from oil and gas, but eventually ended poorer than before. The resource course will not be taken lightly, and we will learn from the experiences of others. It must be noted, however, that our work is guided by several pillars, which include good governance, increased value extraction, efficiency, improved transparency, accountability, predictability, balance, and evidence-based decision-making. This will aid in avoiding the negative effects as mentioned before.
The minister also promised that in order to prevent oil monies from being squandered or misused, the government will, among other things, uphold the Santiago Principles of Transparency and Accountability and the Extractive Industry Transparency Index. He said non-disclosure of receipt of funds from oil revenues will be criminalized, and all annual reports from the government will be laid in the National Assembly detailing oil revenues and expenditures.
This sector will deliver to Guyanese people, but much more has to be done. For example, Guyana has already received payment for its forestry lifts and 2 royalty payments totaling over $144 million US. These monies have been deposited into the Natural Resource Fund. Among this, the Guyanese economy saw over $300 million US in direct investment in the last year. Oil and gas companies employed over 2,000 employees, representing an average of 56% of the workforce in this sector. The companies have trained over 200 Guyanese. They have engaged over 600 Guyanese small businesses, and over 70 joint ventures with local companies were established.
Some areas in which oil revenues will be directed are to support job creation, world-class education and healthcare systems, social and economic infrastructure, and targeted cash transfer to Guyanese, particularly the elderly, children, the poor, and other vulnerable groups. Notwithstanding these promises, Bharat emphasized the need for greater capacity building, standards raising, and knowledge transfer. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
The financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport are next. Welcome back now for a look at what's happening in sport. We're starting off with some rugby news. When executives of the Guyana Rugby Football Union meet with the new Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, Charles Ramson Jr., presenting a solid case for a home for rugby will be high on the agenda, according to President Ryan Day. Akeem Green spoke with the rugby boss and filed the report.
Minister Ramson Jr. has been meeting with the various national sports federations and associations to understand their concerns and vision. Though he has not met with the GRFUs yet, they explain that plans are afoot for that meeting, in which he wants to re-engage the government about finding a permanent home for the sport.
Been preaching this since I started as the president of this union, that we need a home that we can call our own, and that's our main aim, and that's what we really want to drive home to the new administration, so that we can be self-sufficient. And that's my main aim, and our main aim, so that we can be self-sufficient. And we can't be self-sufficient if we don't have, some place to call our own, some place that we can have our guys come in and train at any time of the day. We can hold tournaments where we can also have, monetary gains from these tournaments. Mm-hmm. So that's the main aim and our main goal and our driving force that we're looking at, to get our own rugby ground. And that's why we need a home of our own, so we can have our guys training when it's beneficial to them and not when it's beneficial to, for example, in the national park, we have guys coming up for work for 4:30 and they have to reach the training for 4 and stuff like that. So if we have our own ground, we can, have the lights and the guys come out 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then, we have better players coming out of Guyana because they have the time to train and the time to do other social activities.
In February 2019, the government of Guyana signed a memorandum of understanding with the Guyana Hockey Board and the Guyana Football Federation, paving the way for the construction of artificial surfaces for the 2 sport disciplines west of the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall on Homestretch Avenue, Georgetown. According to the former national player, the proposed area is in close proximity of the aforementioned venues.
There was a space available at Durban Park for us, the Durban Park area where there's DFF, the Guyana Football Federation has a ground. Also, I think the hockey association has a ground as well. And we were in talks with the previous government of our ground being right there alongside these other sport disciplines. But I think during some time the communication broke down, so right now that's where we're trying to pick things back up, because we already have a proposal on how the ground should be situated and stuff like that, and the area in which the ground can go. So again, we're just waiting on our turn to meet the new minister, so we can have a rapport with him and talk to him about our goals for 2020 and beyond.
In 2017, the National Sports Commission, in collaboration with the National Parks Commission, undertook Operation Restoration of the rugby field in the National Park. On June 27, 2018, then Director of Sport Christopher Jones explained to Newsroom Sport he was hopeful for a year in completion of the project, which was stalled due to a combination of weather and a lack of material. They said they had proposals on how best to develop a temporary home for the sport.
Nothing for now. We did like I said earlier, we trying to, when we meet the minister, we will bring up all these stuff. We had a quotation done recently for the rehabilitation of that ground. In the meantime, when we're trying to find a ground of our own, but We already have the quotation, so it's just a matter of meeting the minister.
They indicated that the quotation is to the tune of approximately 3 million Guyana dollars. From 2006 to 2016, Guyana won 8 Caribbean men's sevens title. From 2006 to 2011, they won 6 on the trot. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
Some sad news now. The local cycling fraternity has been plunged into mourning following news of the death of cyclist, businessman, philanthropist and role model Wilbert Benjamin. Benjamin was reportedly struck down during his early morning training in August. He was picked up in an unconscious state and rushed to the hospital. It is understood Benjamin suffered head injuries as a result of the accident. Benjamin was the owner of Benjamin Sports and Fitness Center of Fireridge Village under quarantine in Berbice. Racing Secretary of the Guyana Cycling Federation, Malcolm Sunaram, said the fraternity has lost a key individual and that the sport needs more persons like Benjamin, whom he said had a vision and was passionate about cycling. On February 8 this year, cyclist Jude Bentley was also struck down while training on the Rupert Craig Highway in vicinity of the Russian Embassy turn. Apart from his cycling exploits, Bentley was also a businessman. He owned and operated a bike shop on Robb Street in Georgetown. Now, the Guyana Football Federation has launched a nationwide referees recruitment campaign under the theme, Get Involved. The initiative seeks to expand the existing pool of male and female match officials. The official launch was done on a virtual platform on Tuesday morning, where President of the Federation, Wayne Ford, Technical Director Ian Greenwood, and Head of the Referees Department, Dion Innes, delivered remarks.
So the reasons why are we recruiting? It's simple. We need to grow. We have our referees that have dedicated their time and their energies over the years to ensuring that the game is officiated properly. However, there must be a time when we need new blood, new younger, more energetic legs into the referees program, and there's no better time to do that than now. So here we are. And you may say, why 16 to 25? Well, it's simple too. The reasons are that we are going to be investing quite a bit of energy, time, and resources into training young men and women from throughout Guyana, and we want those persons to give us at least 15 years of service, not only to Guyana, but who knows, maybe the Caribbean, or we may want to see them officiate in a FIFA World Cup match. So the time is to get now. And in terms of get involved, yes, you will know you will be sitting many times looking at a match and you have almost 10 referees there. Oh, this should have been that, that should have been that. Well, we want you to come on the field and get involved in officiating and stop being on the sidelines criticizing or saying this should have been done or that should have been done. So get involved. So my word to you, this is an exciting career. This is the time. Get involved.
The Get Involved campaign is vitally important for the continued development of football in Guyana. Over the past few years, we've seen some tremendous success on our junior national teams and our senior national teams, both male and female. But we know to have continued success, we need to ensure that the environment that our players are operating in is one of a professional standard. So we're working with all of our competitions at under 13s, 15s, 17s, male and female. We need to ensure that that environment has top-class referees at every single age group. This campaign to recruit more referees is a fantastic part of our development process. So if we're working with our players and we're doing sessions focusing on transitions, focusing on what we do in possession, what we do out of possession, and then we go into the game situation, the game environment, and we don't have that quality of refereeing, we don't have that correct environment, the work is going to go out of the window. So we're very excited from a technical point of view to ensure that we can get a new batch of referees, both male and female, to work for Guyana for the next 10 to 15 years. I must stress that we really want to focus on female referees as well. As we've seen in the football world at the moment, women's football is something that is on the top of the agenda for FIFA and also CONCACAF. And the Guyana Football Federation, we're investing a lot into infrastructure, coach development, referee development, and club development for our female players. But again, we need to ensure that the referees that they have understand the different needs that female players have compared to male players as well. So we're very, very excited about this process.
One of the key areas of emphasis over the past 5 to 6 years at FIFA has been participation. While there are particular areas of football development that receives tremendous funding and technical development, FIFA has strongly emphasized the need for wide and broad participation. And what do I mean by that? We want to see as many human beings on this planet being involved in football in some way. And the Get Involved campaign allows us to broaden the amount of participants that we have in the officiating end of the game. I think the technical director hit the nail right on the head when he said that people that join this campaign at this stage, many of our officials that are going to be coming in over the next couple of weeks, can go on to represent Guyana as far as a FIFA World Cup, and we believe in that. And my commitment to you today, those that are already involved in the refereeing profession and those that will be inspired by this campaign and will come on board, my commitment to you is that we at the Guyana Football Federation, the Executive Committee, will be making the requisite investment over the long term to ensure that you are giving the best opportunity to succeed in your refereeing career. It's not going to be easy. We all know that refereeing is a very, very difficult job, and it's not a job that everyone can do. But we believe that with the work and the investment that the Secretariat will be making, our head of referee will be making, and all of the support staff that will be placed around this program, everyone will be given an equal opportunity to succeed.
And the timelines for consultation and implementation of the recommendations of the Webby report have been established by Cricket West Indies, CWI. The proposed way forward was approved by the CWI Board of Directors following a presentation by President Ricky Skerritt of a board paper entitled Governance Reform Report, Next Steps. More in this report. The paper called for the CWI Board of Directors, territorial boards and their members and all stakeholders to do all that is possible to stimulate, encourage and facilitate the reading, discussion and consultation of the report, which was widely distributed on August 17, 2020. According to President Skerritt, Senator Don Webby has offered to make himself and other task force members available to provide explanations and facilitate constructive discussion on the report's findings if needed. The paper encouraged all stakeholders to engage in any consultation they deemed necessary to help pave the path forward towards implementation. According to the board paper, the first deadline is for the report reading and consultation process to be completed by Friday, October 16, 2020. But that would depend on the ability of territorial boards to effectively consult with their membership under the COVID-19 protocol group gathering limitations. During the same period, CWI will be seeking advice on legal processes and actions that would be required to implement the recommendations of the report. The board paper also calls for final feedback from CWI board members and territorial boards to be documented and submitted to CWI by mid-November. Any resulting suggestions and decision-making, including actual resolutions for change of articles, should be completed by November 26 and put before an extraordinary general meeting, which CWI hopes can take place face-to-face by mid-December 2020. And finally, USA Cricket and American Cricket Enterprises last weekend commenced the inaugural 24-team city-based minor league cricket T20 with a total of 10 games across the 2 days. The tournament, which features a host of Caribbean players, will run until November 30. Several Guyanese players turned in creditable performance in the first weekend, namely Test batsman Asset Fuddedin, first-class players Gajanan Singh and Trevon Griffith, and former national under-19 players Dominic Ricky and Akshay Humraj. Fuddedin, playing for New England Eagles, took 3 for 17 bowling the new ball against Empire State Titans and then returned to top score with 55, but his efforts could not inspire victory. Singh got scores of 44 and 35, helping his side Empire State Titans to victory in both games on the opening day, while Griffith struck 60 and took 2 for 21 in Empire State Titans' loss to DC Hawks on Sunday. Opener Ricky made 76 in a losing effort for New Jersey Stallions against Empire State Titans, and Humraj scored a quick 46 to help New Jersey's Somerset Cavaliers to victory over New England Eagles. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, newsroom.gy, our Facebook page, and Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.